Thank you to the sponsor of this video, Aeros Seal. Are you in the market for a new heating and air system and you've been presented or are about to be presented with a quote from a company that is proposing to install a brand that you've never heard of? In today's video, I want to talk about some newer brands that are bracing this nation. And I always get the same comments on these videos, so I'll just go ahead and get this out of the way. I'm not going to mention anyone specifically, so that way I'm not starting a fight, lawsuit, etc. And everything I say in this video is my opinion. I feel like some of these opinions are backed by facts or common sense, but it is my opinion. But I want to talk about in this video basically about a scenario that was presented to me last week. I had a guy come to me and say, hey, I'm using one of the local companies and they've given me a quote, and he showed me the quote, and there was a brand name there that is not something I had ever, I've heard of the brand before, for starters, but apparently it's becoming bigger. They're getting their, they're getting bigger. They're getting their name out there. And the brand that I'm specifically talking about is made by another company, a well-known company nationally, even if you've never heard of them, a company out of China that makes lots of other brands. Okay. And so this brand that I'm talking about, I immediately told the guy, I said, look, just so you know, that brand, that equipment, it's made overseas. It's not a true, communicating inverter system. That's one of the words that a lot of these companies like to throw around. Well, it's an inverter. It's an inverter. And they, are using the ignorance of homeowners, not understanding that not all inverter systems are created equal. And so I'm going to sprinkle throughout this video some questions that if you're presented with one of these quotes, questions that you can ask that contractor to get better clarity on what exactly they're quoting. And I do want to say, I'm not saying that any of these brands are necessarily bad. I'm not saying that you should not even have that system in your home. I'm not saying that at all, but I will say common sense should tell you that if that contractor, if that HVAC contractor is buying that equipment and they're getting a significant discount on it because it is what it is, it's an imported inferior product, that you should be getting a deal here, right? And that's the whole reason I'm doing this video. That was my whole problem. And I said to the guy that had come to me that you should be getting a deal on this. They should not still be quoting some of the pricing you would see with some of the top brands that we see. And how do I tell whether a brand is top or not? Well, there's sales, there's reputation and reliability, all the things warranty. But another thing that I always use as a gauge to just decide whether or not a brand should be even a top brand is it something that the top contractors in the area are installing? To get more information about Aeros Seal, click the link in the description.
If you're an HVAC pro, shoulder season doesn't have to mean slow season. One of the smartest ways to keep your crews busy and revenue flowing is by sealing ductwork with Aeros Seal. Think about it. Most homes are losing 20 to 30% of the conditioned air that the system produces. What that means to you is you've got upset customers, reduced system efficiency, and wasted energy. With Aeros Seal, you can seal any of that ductwork fast, clean, and with proven results. Best part? It's a high-margin add-on solution that keeps revenue flowing even when your install season slows down. Your customers get greater comfort and lower energy bills, and you get steady business all year long. Want to see how it works in your model? Click the link and let's talk.
My first question that I would say you should ask one of these folks is, if it's an inverter, is it a communicating inverter or is it a non-communicating inverter? And again, I have a non-communicating inverter system in my home. I'm not saying they're all bad. I think that they are good for what they are, but they are less expensive. They're inferior in a lot of ways, such as moisture reduction, power consumption, and so on. And a non-communicating inverter is just not the same as a communicating inverter system. I've done other videos on that. It's been documented, and it, for a number of reasons, it's not the same. Okay. So just because it's an inverter doesn't mean it's the same. It's a top tier quality high-end communicating inverter system. And so to piggyback off of this whole topic of, whether or not they are giving you a deal or not, I would ask them, okay, so that's your price for brand X. Brand X being a non-communicating inverter system that's being imported into our country. What is your price for brand Y? American-made brand, communicating inverter system, high-end system. What's the cost difference here? And I want to see, what are they quoting here? I think that's the biggest thing here is the contractor is getting a sweet deal on buying this, lower end system, and they're still charging the same prices that they would charge for a high end system. And, you can say, well, Josh, that's just business. I agree, but it's also fair game for me to warn folks like you. Another question might be, where is it made? Where is this equipment made? And again, I'm not saying if it's imported that it's bad. I'm saying that, you may decide to buy what you buy based on where that equipment is made. Now, just know they could lie to you. They could say, oh, well, this is made in our country. It's made in North America or whatever. And you need to, I think, get that in writing, get that wherever it's made, get it in writing. So that way, when the equipment is installed, I would Google it. I would do some homework and make sure that you know what you're buying. I think also understanding, watching my videos or many others on the differences between a communicating and non-communicating inverter system. Really, at the end of the day, it's all about the technology itself. Simple psychometrics can tell you that slowing down airflow, a colder coil that is below dew point is going to remove more moisture from the home. And it's just simple technology, psychometrics that tell you that. And then, on the heating side of things, if it's say a heat pump, a higher heat rise, slowing down the airflow. And so the point here is a lot of these non-communicating inverter systems, yes, it's a variable speed motor in a lot of cases, or a constant torque, or different types of motors. It could be a simple ECM, but because it's non-communicating, it's not having the ability for the equipment to talk to one another and ramp down and save you energy, remove more moisture, and all the other advantages to having a true communicating inverter system. Maybe ask that contractor what they have in their own house. That was a question I would get from time to time. And I think that contractor should be able to answer that and give you a reason why or why not they have what they have in their home. But what was funny was when I said that to the guy, he immediately said, well, this contractor is building a house and he's putting this lower end equipment in his brand new house. And of course, I couldn't say anything to that. Well, if he's putting it in his own house, obviously he believes in the equipment to some degree. I think the whole point here, and the reason I made this video to summarize, is just, do some homework, understand what you're buying, get quotes, and understand that, this is business, that, the company is there to make money. And I think that's okay, as long as they are being transparent. And the same token, that I think a lot of consumers are willing to invest in something that is worth what it's worth, as long as the company is being transparent in what exactly they're selling you. Last question is, I would just simply ask them, who makes this equipment? That's the brand. That's what's on my quote here. Who actually makes the equipment? And if they're honest, you should be able to Google it, or they should be able to just simply answer that question outright. And again, be confident in what they're selling, even if they do mention a different. It's not uncommon for different brands to be made by different manufacturers. Most of the main manufacturers out there are just like the car industry, where Ford makes multiple different brands, GM makes multiple different brands, and that's still the case for a lot of HVAC brands for one reason or another as well. Let me know your thoughts down in the comment section. I'd love to hear them. If you like this video, I think you'll like this one too. It's where I actually got to sit front row to a skills competition in the HVAC industry, and I got to bring cameras behind the scenes. Thanks for watching. Hit that subscribe button for more HVAC tips. We'll see you next time.